Previously from the Hood Blogger.
He been out for years. He actually really took off after his last trip going upstate. When he came home, OBH, they had the Philly hip hop scene on Smash, so the audience was tuned into Philly around the world. Yo, this SV Twiz, the Hood Blogger. Y'all know how I carry it. Make sure y'all hit the like button and sub if you're new to the channel, or if you're a returning viewer and you ain't subbed yet, show some love. Today, man, I gotta get into a story on bricks, bro. Brick or raw. I'm talking about Glen Mills, bro. When I went in, it was 04. I came home 05. Anybody know anything about Glen Mills? It's damn near like the feds for young boys. And they try to, turn you into cold rats in that, John. And it's like real strict. I remember when I went up, at the end of the day, y'all remember 1801 Vine? I don't know if that John's still rolling, but, I kept getting in trouble, but I was on probation. And then, one day the judge smacked me in court. I was in there, with my mom Dukes and my niece. And, I knew something was up because as we sitting waiting to go in court, all these placements, like people that I guess, it's like the face of the placements, they coming and sitting down next to us, like, some of the Academy, Glen Mills, all these people was coming and they promoting it like you going to college or something like that. They telling my mom, like, what these Jones got to offer and stuff like that. But me being young, not even paying attention to peeping the blitz, they was about to roof me. As a young boy, of course, it wasn't like no 30 years or nothing like that. But, if you 15, 16 years old, like a 12 to 14, that joint hit hard. So long story short, I get sentenced. I go up to the Mills immediately. They put you at the cells under 1801 Vine, and you got to sit there just like how when you go up State Road and the van pick you up. And I was the only one that was going to, Glen Mills. I was the last one in the joint. And everybody's talking about where they was going. And then, when I said Glen Mills, they looking like you going upstate type time. They like, oh man, you going up the Mills? That's one of the worst joints you could go to. They like, people up there built like grown men. And they wasn't lying, bro. They was not lying. So long story short, I'm not gonna get into the whole Glen Mills story. So I'm up in there, I see how knocked off it is. It's real strict and all that. So basically, that leads me to saying that Glen Mills is it's a non-touch program. Like if you ever been to like St. Gabe's and you study center, like certain placements, like you can knuckle in that joint. Of course, you're not gonna really get in that much trouble. But I remember like over the Gabe's, I seen staff members, be upset with somebody that's in there drawing. And they say stuff like, man, y'all better than me, because at the end of the day, y'all lost your rec time or y'all lost this because of this individual. If I was y'all, I would treat him. I done been in situations and seen people get treated, staff let you rock out, up there blowing and all types of stuff, on the Newport tip, like certain Jones is like much sweeter, but the Mills is so strict that you gotta have like statuses just to talk to people. It's like a whole blown out story, but it leads to me saying that, stuff like rapping is like banned. I don't think you supposed to, they don't really trip with the cussing and all that, but like rapping and stuff they used to be something called subgrouping, where a subgroup is like up Glen Mills, you got the whole America up there, and sometimes people from out the country. But if it's like a group of 8 people from Philly, then they call it subgroup, and they be like, break it up. They want you to be mixed up with people, so it ain't like they don't really be wanting you to connect with other Philly people and stuff like that. So it was a joint called the Rec Center. Like I was in Hayes Hall, so my unit was under the Rec Center, so we could just walk right upstairs. Like we had free time or whatever when we go out in our groups. And coming in the rec is so big that you could be up in little groups and stuff like that. You just had to be smooth with it. So this was pre-touch money Brick or Raw. Brick or Raw, when I tell you, bro, he was up there cooking stuff. Bro, he was the hottest dude in the Mills. It was also McVeigh. McVeigh was fire too. They was the two ones. But at this point when Brick or Raw had came up, nobody knew who he was. He wasn't on them DVDs or nothing yet. But before he had came up to the Mills, he had already him and Young Hot, they had battled.
I see my man Moose. My man Moose lived on Brick's block. This was before all that Touch Money shit. This was like actually my introduction to them. I didn't really know them until the battle with Brick. Cause West Philly's small, but nigga, the other side of the market is damn near North Philly to us. Like, especially with these young boys, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't really give the other side, like, not on a disrespectful way. We just didn't have no reason to really go over there or talk to nobody over there. You know what I'm saying? When they was going off, I had my side. Like, I had the south side of market, everything from market down to Baltimore and a little bit up top. But, like, on my end, that was my section. You know what I'm saying? And Moose came around my block one day. And typical, man, my young boy, my block, man, it's this, and I want to see y'all battle, and that. Like, Moose just used to gas. That's just how Moose was. Like, he laughed and joked and just want to gas and see some shit happen. He was a fan of rap, you know what I'm saying? So, he was just like, man, my young boy, Bricks are trash, you, man. You don't want no work with Bricks, and I'm telling you, da-da-da-da. So I'm like, man, tell him to come around here then. So he went in, like, literally in, like, 15 minutes, because it was like, you know, it ain't that far. So, nigga went, grabbed Brick so quick, spun him right back around my block. We actually started battling like around 3 o'clock. It was like 3 p.m. Y'all didn't see that battle part until, matter of fact, I say like 5. It was like 5 p.m. we started. Y'all didn't really see the actual video battle part of it until, I think like, what time was it? Like 8 or 9? Like, it ended up going down that way. We ended up hearing about that battle. Like, we ended up hearing about that battle on that, if I'm not mistaken. I think I got that story correct. Because I know we ended up battle on my block and over there. Like, I think we ended up hearing about that battle while we was battling and actually went back over there. You know what I'm saying?
That shit
Like,
crazy. Yeah, because I know.
If I'm not mistaken, because that shit was long ago. The only opposite story could be that if we battled there first, and then he came back and we battled again on my block. But either way, I know we battled both spots, like on the corner of my block and at the and over there at the hut. And that's when I met like Shellyano. That's when I met That's when I met everybody on that end.
So after this battle, this is when Brick or Raw, he comes to Glen Mills. You know, he was in a whole different unit than me, and you know, he wasn't. You go by last names in Glen Mills. So when it came to like rapping and stuff like that, whether a person can play ball, if they wasn't like on the team, you would just know, like Philly people, just how he was dressing with like the state prop era and all that. You could spot another Philly guy, and his name was buzzing in the joint, you know. But like I said, everybody was really going by last names. Even if a person knew your nickname, they would be like, yo, that's Jackson, or you know what I'm talking about. So he was in there crushing people, bro. I'm talking about in the wreck, like, you know, he was wiping people out. So he was known for being, you know, fire in that joint. There's also another place in Glen Mills called the SU, like the student union, where you can make your phone calls. If you got your status and all that, you can play pool, you know, you can pay for food and all that stuff. So, you know, he was catching wreck inside the SU too. And, you know, he just was known for, you know, crushing people and everything. And then, you know, shortly after that, he get discharged. You know, I come home, and next thing I know, you know, I see him on the DVDs. And now you got Touch Money and all that. So that Touch Money wave and all that took off around 05. You know what I'm saying? Between that, you know, 05, 06, definitely it was most likely towards the end of 05 or somewhere in that area. And then I'm like, you know, bro took it serious. And then, you know, me personally, Bricks is, you know, my favorite rapper from Touch Money. A lot of people, you know, love Reed, especially from like other states and stuff like that. But Bricks, to me, he just was different. You know, he had a whole different, I mean, they all had their different styles and all that, but Bricks was hot, bro. Still is hot, you know. And also his battles was legendary. You know, I feel like when we mention it, you know, top rappers from that DVD era, you know, you gotta bring Brick or Raw. Like, he had that famous the battle, the you know, the FU, you know what I'm saying? He was crushing people with that joint. You know, but this SB Twiz, the Hood Blogger, man, keep the requests coming. You know, I definitely follow up on a request. If it's something y'all need me to cover, whatever part of the city you from, you want me to cover the trench stuff, documentary style, whether it's regular, gangsters from this city, an area that y'all feel like ain't being talked about, reach out to me. Yeah, I mean, just make sure you could, help me with the storyline, point me in the right direction. Cause I gotta come on here with the, as accurate information as I can. But this SB Twiz, the hood blogger, y'all know how I carry it.